understand that in the days of Noah, and when they got done getting out of the ark, Noah decides to start a vineyard, and he gets drunk on the wine that he has created, and he's in his tent, and he's naked, and his son Ham comes in and sees his nakedness and decides to mock him and go get his brothers to help mock what's going on, and the fact that his father's drunk and naked, and his brothers have more wisdom. They go and get a blanket. Sister Kelly even says that they go in backwards and not watching, and to cover what was going on. And when Noah sees what's going on, he comes to his mind after being drunk. He says he gets upset with Ham, and he doesn't curse Ham, but he cursed Canaan, his son. He creates a generational curse, and he says, because Ham has done this, Canaan is going to be a servant to his uncle's generations. For a long time, we see this take place in Joshua. When Joshua is taking over the land of Canaan, there's a group of Canaanites that remain and stay as slaves for the children of Israel. We see this under Solomon and all the Akites. A lot of them are generations from Canaan. And so we see this within Solomon, and when they're doing their conquests and whatnot, that there's a group of Canaanites that remains slaves. Now the word Tyre, and so it's all in the same coast, in the same region, in Ezekiel chapter 27 and chapter 28 is talking about, and pastor's talking about fighting to win, and sooner or later we'll probably get into the idea of princes, and I think he talked about that a little bit on Wednesday, that there's a prince in the city and that we have to overtake the prince of the city. And so Tyre is the hub of hell, if you will. That's what it's talking about there in Ezekiel. And so this is the root of evil. If Jerusalem is the kingdom of heaven for God, if you will, then Tyre is the root of hell, if that makes any sense. And so you got to understand that this region, the whole entire history of it is slavery and the epicenter of hell. That's what she's coming out of. That's what's going on in this whole entire scenario. I need you to understand that. And so what begins to happen, what begins to take place, this woman understanding that Jesus goes by the coast simply for this woman. He has no business in this land, but he goes by this region just for this woman. So this woman comes up to Jesus and says, Master, Son of David. And something that I need you to get and understand, that she's making a declaration that the disciples haven't even got yet. When she says, Master, Son of David, she's literally calling him the Messiah. Peter wouldn't make the declaration that he is the Son of the living God until a few chapters later on. But here she makes the declaration by calling him the Son of David. And she says, Son of David, my daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But notice what Jesus does, Sister Vicky. He does absolutely nothing. He doesn't answer a word. How many's ever prayed before and it seemed like God went silent on you? Does that ever frustrate you? Here this woman is. She has a daughter that's vexed with a devil. She goes to the only one that can do anything about it, and he's silent. And I prayed to God, and listen, Jesus is the nicest person who ever lived. I just really don't get why he's not talking. A lot of us, that's our mindset when we're praying. I know you love me, but I don't understand why you're not talking to me. So I asked the Lord, what's going on in this circumstance? What's happening here? I felt that he told me it's because she wasn't ready to receive the answer. God isn't in the business to hurt you. He's not in the business to destroy you. So if you're not ready for the answer, he's not going anywhere, but he'll stay silent until you're ready. He won't say a word. He'll say, we can talk about anything else you want to talk about, but until you're ready to receive that answer, I'm not saying a word. That's what he's doing with this woman, because he's about ready to get real very blunt with her. Sometimes God has to get very blunt with us, but once again, he's not here to hurt us. So if he has to wait until we're ready to receive that word, he'll wait. But this is how Jesus knows that she's ready. The disciples come and says, Lord, she's bothering us. Why don't you just send her away? Please, she's crying out to us. Why don't you just do something? Send her out. If we're not careful, this is how the church is. I think we got a lot better over the years, not only corporately, but bodily. We used to kick people out because they didn't look like us. We used to give them dirty looks, but luckily God's dealing with us. Our mindset's changed than what it used to be 50 years ago. People are coming in looking like the world, and we're okay with it now. We didn't used to be okay with it. But that's what the disciples are doing. And then Jesus makes a pretty bold statement. He said, I only came for the lost sheep of Israel. That's who I came for. I didn't come for anybody else. This is the power and the beauty of God. He does the same thing with the Samaritan woman. He goes to her and he tells her, if you drink from the well that I give you, you'll never thirst again. And then after giving her what he's about ready to do, he gives her or deals with the issue. I'm going to give you life-giving water, but now I got to deal with the issue, because he says, I'm going to give you life-giving water and you'll never thirst again. And she says, I want that. And Jesus says, go tell your husband. She says, I don't have any husbands. And Jesus says, I know. You've had 5 husbands, and the dude you're currently shacking up with isn't your husband. But he already gave her the answer to what's about ready to happen. So when Jesus says, I came only for the lost sheep of Israel, he isn't saying that she's not a part of the family. Even through bloodline, she's not. He isn't saying that I didn't come for you, that I'm not going to deal with your situation. He's simply saying that there's about ready to be adoption, but something has to take place first. Is anybody still here this morning? God will give you the answer. That a lot of times what happens with the pastors preaching, he gives us the answer for what we need, but then there has to be a response at the altar, and some things have to change in order for that to happen. And so she could have easily got offended right here. She could have easily said, if you didn't come for me, then I'll just go. But she didn't. She came to the altar anyways and said, Lord, please help me. Then he makes a statement, which was our text. He said, it's not right for me to take the... Go ahead and come here, Griffin. I want you to sit in this chair. Go ahead and act like you're about ready to eat that. It's not right for me to take the bread from my child and just give it to the dogs. He flat out calls her a dog. But the reason is why. You can go ahead and be seated. Thank you. The question is, why does Jesus call her a dog? You can say that's rude. But you got to understand the times that they're living in. When you go outside, there's many animals that walk the same street that you do. They don't go to an outhouse to take care of their business. They just go where they will. That's why when you come into a house, a human comes into a house, they have their feet washed. That's why Jesus did that, because there would have been mud, dirt, and dung on the disciples' feet. That's what happened when they came into the house. So they didn't bring everything from the world inside the house. Does that make sense? But he calls her a dog. Why? Because that dog's going to go out there. They're going to play in the mud, the dirt, and the dung, not even realizing what they're doing. Then they're going to bring that into the house, not realizing what they're doing. And let's just say it's a little bit raining like it is today. And let's just say this dog has a lot of fur. What is it going to do as soon as it gets into the house? And what's going to happen to all that mud and dirt and dung? Everywhere in the house. And that dog's going to track it everywhere in the house. Am I making any sense to anybody this morning? So Jesus is saying, listen, this little girl, her daughter, Sister Vicky, did absolutely nothing wrong. She didn't invite spirits into the house. She wasn't playing with things that she wasn't. She didn't go out there and, get a hold of these spirits and invite them in. It was Mom. Mom was the one that brought in the spirits, and now the daughter is being vexed by a demon because of what Mom did. Can you throw up Matthew chapter number 12? I'm going to paraphrase this because of time. But Jesus is talking about, I'll just go ahead and read it. When the unclean spirits come out of the man, he walketh through dry places seeking rest, and he findeth none. Then he said, I will return to my house whence I came out. And when he's come, he findeth it empty and swept and garnished. And he goeth and he taketh himself 7 more spirits more wicked than himself, and enter and dwell there. And at that state, the man is worse than first. Even so shall it be unto this wicked generation. So Jesus is saying that if I cast this devil out of your daughter without you willing to make some changes, then that demon's going to go out and find 7 more wicked demons than itself and come back in. And where you've been having a party with your daughter and these devils, they're coming back to utterly destroy her. And I refuse to do it. That sounds mean that Jesus won't cast out a demon. But right now, she's still alive. If that demon goes out and gets 7 more, she's dead. And God says, I refuse to do it until you're willing to change. This is how he knows that she's changed. This is her response to what seems to be something that's very rude, Brother Steve. She's just been called a dog. Most of us would be offended by that. But now we understand why he said that. Now it's not quite so offensive. Because we realize, hey, there's some stuff going on and that I have to change. But this is her response. She could have got easily offended. She said, I'm not here for a seat at the table. I'll just be here, and if you'll just let me have a crumb that falls from the master's table. Even the dogs get the crumb that falls from the master's table. I don't need a seat at the table. See, that's the problem with the disciples. They're constantly fighting over who's sitting at the table. That's all they do. I want to sit next to you. I want to sit next to you. I want to be at the table. And this woman says, I don't need all of you. I don't need to be a part of anything. I just need a piece of you, and my daughter is made whole. That's what she says. All I need is a piece. And Jesus says, great is your faith. You understand something that nobody else does. Everybody else is looking for a place at the table, and you understand that all you need is a piece of me, but here it is. I'm not going to give you a piece of me. You're sitting at the table. I'm going to give you the best seat in the house. And once you're here, look at what's on the table. Remember, he said that it's not right for me to take the bread. He said that, right? He says it's not right for me to take the bread from my children. What was he referring to? He would later on said that this is my body, which is broken for you. That bread represents him and his body. He says, you're not just going to get a crumb of me. I'm going to give you all of me. Is there anybody here this morning? He's not interested in giving you a piece of him, but he wants you to have all of him. You're not just getting his body, but you're getting his blood. We have to be covered in the blood. Something's about ready to happen here. She has to go back into the house, but because of what she eats and drinks at the table, her house is going to be completely different because of what's at the table. The Passover meal. Jesus, and listen, it was celebrated every year, but what we know as the Last Supper won't take place for another year and a half-ish. We call it the Last Supper, but really all they're doing is celebrating Passover from Exodus. That's what that meal is. And so in Exodus, when the death angel is coming to come into town and kill the firstborn, Jesus gives the commandment to take a lamb and to slay it and take the blood, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but to eat the body from the lamb. This is the first instance of communion that's being set up. The bread would have been the same. It didn't have the stuff to make it rise because they were about ready to leave. That's the meal that Jesus was going to be eating at the Last Supper. But I want you to understand that when the father of the house would have took that lamb and slit its throat and put the blood in a basin and would have put it on the doorpost, understand that blood's a lot. It's not as thick as paint. Paint doesn't splash as much as a liquid would. Does that make sense? As blood would. So when they would have been painting the doorpost, it would have got all over them. It would have splashed back. When they were painting up top, it would have went everywhere. And then when the father walks through the door, the blood would have drained on him. And so not only is blood applied to the door, but it's also applied. It's applied to the keeper of the house. And everywhere that keeper goes, the blood is being applied. Everywhere that he steps, he is taking territory because everywhere he goes, there's leaving the blood. And so that angel's not going to go anywhere near. And even if somehow it looks into the house is now covered with blood because of the man of the house being covered in blood. Griffin, can you come here again, bud? And Dad, if you would come. I need you to hold the mic for me, okay? think I'm crazy, but I'm covered in the blood right now. All you see is the blood stains. I did that for a reason. I need you to get what this mother's... Go ahead and sit down, bud. Thank you. Thank you, Dad. You might think I'm crazy right now, but there's blood dripping at my feet. Purposely stepped on this for a reason. What do you see? You see the blood. If I would to keep my shoes on, blood would be dripping right now. It would be dripping on this platform right now if I would have kept my shoes on. Everywhere I would have walked, there would have been an imprint of the blood. Are you still here, somebody? I'm so sick and tired of the enemy's attack. If I'm the bloodline, somebody, because I'm covered in the blood, that means everything behind me the devil can't get to because I'm the bloodline. Are you still here, somebody? And so if everything behind me I have dominion over because of the blood, and the devil can't get to because of the blood. Youth group, I want you to step on this platform. I'm the bloodline. So the devil can attack them because I'm the bloodline. Is anybody still here? And when you become the bloodline, you go into your home, and now Brother Wayne's covered because I'm the bloodline, and the devil can't cross me. And now my dad's covered because the devil can't get past the blood. And now I keep on walking, and everybody in this section is under the blood. And I keep on walking, and everybody in that section's under the blood. And I get all the way back here, and now everything that behind me is under the blood. The devil can't get through because it can't cross the bloodline. I'm so sick and tired of the enemy. But listen. So you're like, you just ruined the shirt. No, it's covered in blood. See, Sister Sean, I can care less if the devil knows my name. Irrelevant. But when the devil sees me, I want him to see the blood. When I go into my workplace, I want him to see the blood because I'm taking territory in my workplace. I wish I can destroy this carpet. I would. Because when I go into my workplace, Sister Edna, all the enemy sees is the blood. When I go to my family members that aren't saved, all the devil sees is the blood. And I'm taking dominion where he had dominion. This woman, because what she ate at the table is going to go back to the epicenter of hell with the blood. And everywhere she walks, all that's going to happen, where she went into the house and brought everything from the world in, now she's bringing the blood in. Are you still here? She's bringing the blood in, and blood is now being splattered all over the house because she's not bringing in crud from the world. She's bringing in the blood. If we want true victory, we got to be covered in the blood. Thank you, gentlemen. You can go sit down. We have to be covered in the blood. See, when the devil sees me, see, how many times has God tried to do something in your life and the devil brings up your past? Sound familiar? Is there a witness in the house? That's all he does. Brother Wayne, God wants to bless you, and the devil's like, yeah, I remember what you did last week. I remember what you did 30 years ago, Sister Edna. But when the devil sees me, all I want him to see is the blood. When he sees me, I want him rubbing his eyes. What are you doing, devil? That's Jason. I thought I had him destroyed, but he kind of looks like that man that we put on the tree and we thought we had him destroyed. Because of the blood that's on him, all I see is Jesus being high and lifted up. All I see is Jesus on the cross. All I see is the blood that's flowing down from Calvary. I may look ridiculous to you, but I'm covered in the blood. When you're covered in the blood, young people, you'll look different. You'll act different because you're covered in the blood. They'll get ready to turn on some music. I wonder if there's anybody that's sick and tired of the devil. If you're sick and tired, listen, I know Jesus called this woman a dog. Rude? No. I'm being real. But because she ate at the table, somebody, now she's covered in the blood. This table's ready for you. It's called an altar. This is just an analogy. Is there anybody, if they're ready to kick on some music, is there anybody in this house ready to eat at the table? Ready to be covered in the blood of Christ? And when you leave here, take the blood of Christ with you. And everywhere you step, everywhere you go, the enemy, you're going to start taking ground because you're covered in the blood. Everywhere the enemy looks at you, you're going to be covered in the blood. Is there anybody here that wants to be covered in the blood? They'll kick on some music. This altar's open.